Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, January the 29th. Got a big Friday night slate as usual. We got 10 games tonight, so we're going to break down these 10 games team by team, go through each game, kind of hit on the guys that I'm liking, in each game. We'll start off with the Pacers and the Hornets. We'll work through till we get to the late night game, the Jazz and the Mavs. Before we get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You will also get notified every time I do go live, and I will be live streaming this afternoon for tonight's slate. I'll be live for about an hour. I'll be able to answer all your questions, so if you're able to tune in around 3:30 Eastern Time on Friday afternoon, I will be live streaming on my YouTube channel. If you are able to tune in. But yeah, let's take a look at Friday, or at this 10-game slate for Friday night. We'll start off with the Pacers and the Hornets game. These two teams did play on Wednesday. They're playing again on Friday. We'll start off on the Pacers side. So on this slate, on a big slate like this, I don't think this is a game I have too much interest in. We are going to talk about someone I like on the Hornets side in a second, but on the Pacers, nobody really stands out from the Pacers. Sabonis did have some success in this matchup when these teams just played on Wednesday. He did have 55 DK points in 37 minutes. If you want to target him in tournaments, I think he's someone you can definitely look to. His price actually went down a little bit. We know Sabonis has, 50, 60-point upside. The Hornets have always been pretty bad defending big men, so I don't mind Sabonis as a tournament option. Brogdon, Miles Turner, I'm not really a big fan of at their price tags. Jeremy Lamb, I could see going to. He's still cheap. He's $4,900. He actually started last game. He was terrible, though. He only played 21 minutes, shot 1 for 6 from the field, had just 14 DK points in 21 minutes. I would expect him to play much better here. I don't think Lamb's going to be that bad on a point-per-minute basis. He's been relatively productive this year when he does get minutes. So if Jeremy Lamb does start again, he could be a value play worth considering. I think there's probably going to be better value open up as the day goes on, but Lamb at $4,900, if he's starting, I would assume he gets close to 30 minutes. I know he didn't last game, but I think most games, especially if he's playing well, you're probably going to get 28, 30 minutes from Jeremy Lamb. So he's a fine value. Sabonis is a tournament option you could pay up for. But that's really all I have interest in from the Pacers today. Now, on the Hornets side, the price tag came down on Gordon Hayward. This is not a great matchup against the Pacers. It's just not a great game overall. But for only $7K, I think Hayward does look pretty appealing on DraftKings, given that his price did come down. He was pretty bad when these teams played Wednesday, but I would expect him to play much better. He's been productive this year. He's a guy that can, be productive for DFS. He can score, he can rebound, he can get assists, he can just do everything, and he should get all the usage on this Hornets team. So I do like Gordon Hayward at $7K. Between him, Rozier, and Graham, I would definitely rather play Hayward over those guys. Not really much stands out, though, with PJ Washington, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, not a big fan of. But I do want to talk about Cody Zeller. So I think Cody Zeller right now, he even looks like one of the better value plays. We don't have a ton of standout value right now, but there are a lot of guys questionable, so there could be some value that does open up as the day goes on. But Cody Zeller, only $4K on DraftKings. He is very cheap on Yahoo as well. For those of you that play on Yahoo, Cody Zeller coming in at only $11, close to minimum salary. I think if you're looking for a cheap center, he does look like someone that we can go to at that price point. But last game, in this same matchup, they did move Cody Zeller into the starting lineup. We saw, when he returned from injury, he wasn't really getting many minutes. He played 3 games, 11 minutes, 15 minutes, 18 minutes off the bench. Well, last game, they put him back in the starting lineup, and he played 30 minutes. It was very productive with a double-double, 4 assists and a steal, had 37 DraftKings points in that time. Zeller is a guy that can be relatively productive on a point-per-minute basis. He can give you close to a fantasy point per minute. If he's going to start again and play 28 to 30 minutes at only $4K, he actually looks like a really good value play. So I do like Cody Zeller as a cheap option on this slate. They're definitely going to need his size because we know the Pacers are a team that plays pretty big. They're going to have one of Sabonis or Turner on the floor at all times. So if we're going to get 30 minutes from Cody Zeller at $4K, I think he's actually a really good value on the slate. So I do like him quite a bit as a cheap option. But that really does it for this game. To the next one, this one is very, very appealing. We got the Hawks and the Wizards, two teams that play very fast, two teams that don't play a ton of defense. We're going to start off on the Hawks side. Trae Young, I don't know what DraftKings is doing, but his price tag is just still too low in my opinion. He's only $9,100. He's had 6 straight games with over 50 DK points, and his price tag just doesn't move. I don't really know why. I love Trae Young once again today. He's one of my favorite spend-up options. once again on this slate. Love him on both sides. He's too cheap on Yahoo as well. $40. His price tag did not go up over there. So I definitely think Trae Young looks like an appealing option. Such a good matchup here. The Wizards, I'm pretty sure they're playing at like the fastest pace in the league so far this year. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. You could not ask for a better spot for Trae Young. Love him on this slate. Once again, one of my favorite pay-up options overall. Clint Capella, I have some interest in as well. Less so on DraftKings. He's expensive on DraftKings. Tough to pay $8,900 for him. But on Yahoo, it's a lot easier to get him in over there, $37. In tournaments, I think Capella does look pretty appealing. He wasn't very good last game, but I think most games we're going to get 45, I don't want to say 50, but like 40, 45 fantasy points from Capella. If he's playing 35, 36 minutes, then, he's going to double-double. He's going to block some shots. It's a great matchup. I do have some interest in Clint Capella. John Collins I really like as well. I was pretty high on him last game. He was okay, had 37 DK points in 39 minutes. His price came down on DraftKings, down to $7,200. He's still reasonably priced on Yahoo as well at $30. So really, the big three from Atlanta, Capella, Collins, and Trae Young, I all have interest in. Definitely would prefer Trae Young of the three, but Collins and Capella are definitely in play. I mean, DeAndre Hunter as well. Like, he's been playing so well lately, been getting big minutes, played 45 minutes in overtime, had 39 DK points. Another great matchup here against the Wizards. I think DeAndre Hunter is definitely in play. Like, I really just want to have a ton of exposure to this game because I think it's going to be very high scoring. Right now, to no surprise, it does have the highest total on the slate. So, like all those guys, Herter, Reddish, Gallo, like these are more secondary options, just guys you can target in tournaments for really low ownership. I think mainly from Atlanta, I'm going to stick to the top four guys, Trae Young, Capella, Collins, and Hunter. Don't really see myself going to anyone else. But on the Wizards side, Wizards are pretty appealing here as well. Bradley Beal, his price is up to $10,200. It's a fantastic matchup. I don't know if I want to pay $10,200 for Beal like in cash games or anything, but in tournaments, he's going to be pretty low owned on this slate, I would assume. So he's someone you can definitely look to in tournaments for low ownership. Russell Westbrook, his prices come way down to $9K. I think he looks like a great option as well. He's been having his minutes limited lately. His first two games back from injury, he's played 25 and 28 minutes. I'd assume his minutes will probably ramp up a little bit here. I don't know if he's going to get back to the 36 minutes, but I think 30 to 32 is very likely. And given that his prices dropped down to $9K in a great matchup like this in a fast-paced game, Russell Westbrook actually looks really appealing on this slate. Him and Trae Young, I think, are two of the better pay-up options right now, assuming Westbrook is not limited too badly. If he's only going to play 28, 30 minutes, it's going to be tough to go to him. But if we can get 30, 32 minutes or more from Westbrook, at $9K, he's a really appealing option. But like Bertans is expected back for this game. Rui Hachimura is expected back for this game as well. I think Rui's fine as a value. He's only $4,900. He should move back into the starting lineup. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, given he hasn't played in 2 weeks. But if he's not limited and if he's starting, for $4,900 in a great matchup like this, Rui Hachimura could be a decent value. Could be someone worth considering. That kind of does it, though, for Atlanta or for Washington. Like, Robin Lopez, he's going to start, probably play 24, 26 minutes. In a matchup against the Hawks, he could put up a decent game. But really, I think from Washington, it's Beal. Definitely Westbrook I like the most. And then Rui, if he starts and is not limited, I think is a fine value as well. But that does it really for the for Washington. I do want to mention Jordan Bell just because he started last game. He played 31 minutes, had 28 DK points. I think with Rui back, he probably goes back to the bench. But this will at least be something to monitor. If he does start again, then yeah, $3,300, Jordan Bell would be a really good value. But I'm assuming he's going to move back to the bench. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Milwaukee and New Orleans. I like this game quite a bit, especially on the Milwaukee side. Giannis right now, him, Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, those look like some of my favorite pay-up options on the slate. I definitely want to try and fit in Giannis if I can. I like him quite a bit on both sides. $10,800 on DK. On Yahoo, he's coming in at $52 over there. Definitely looks like one of the better power forward options overall, and if you can fit him in, I think he's worth getting to, especially because, Yahoo, like always, their pricing is pretty soft. You can find some good value on Yahoo, and we will talk about that in a second. But I do really like Giannis here. Against the Pelicans, the Pelicans they've been playing a lot slower this year. They haven't been the insanely fast-paced team that they were last season, but still, Giannis is just such a productive player when he's on the floor. In a game like this that should be competitive, I think the spread right now in this game is pretty tight. Yeah, it's a 6.5-point spread, so we're expecting a pretty close game here, 228 total, which I think is the second highest or third highest on the slate behind the Hawks and the Wizards game. Should be high scoring, should stay close. We should get 36, 38 minutes from Giannis. When he's playing, 36, 38 minutes, he's likely to put up 55, 60 DK points, if not more than that. The Pelicans, they have Zion. They have some guys that can, defend, but nobody is slowing down Giannis at this point. He's just so productive when he's on the floor. He does everything. He scores, he rebounds, he gets assists, he gets defensive stats. He stuffs the stat sheet, and he's someone that I always want to try and pay up for when he's on a slate, and definitely like him here, especially because it's a big slate. So I'm sure as the day goes on Friday, we're going to have some value open up that's going to make it a lot easier to get in these stud options. But outside of Giannis, there's not much else that I love from Milwaukee. I think Brook Lopez is fine at 5,200. I mean, he's probably going to play 30 to 32 minutes. He could definitely give you 30, 35 DK points here. If you want to go to him, I don't mind him. It is a revenge game for Drew Holiday, so if you want to factor that in, you can. Normally, I don't play Drew Holiday when Giannis and Middleton are both healthy, but with a little bit of a narrative here, you could maybe go to Drew Holiday in the revenge game. But I really like Giannis the most from Milwaukee, and that kind of does it for the Bucks. Now, on the other side, on the Pelicans side, we do have a big injury to watch here. Right now, Lonzo Ball is questionable. If he were to miss this game, we would get a great value play in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I would assume that if Lonzo is out, Alexander Walker would start. Last game, he replaced Lonzo in the second half. He started the second half in place of Lonzo, and he finished the game with 27 DK points in 30 minutes. He's probably going to start and play 35, 36 minutes, if not, close to that, if Lonzo does wind up out. So keep an eye on the status of Lonzo. If he's out, Nickeil Alexander-Walker for 4,200 is a great value play. Eric Bledsoe would get a boost as well. It's a revenge game for him. So if Lonzo is out, I do have a lot more interest in Eric Bledsoe, who's actually been playing pretty well lately. He does get a nice boost in his assist percentage. His usage sees a spike with Lonzo off the floor. He's just going to have the ball in his hands more. So I do have interest in him at 5,700. Ingram and Zion, though, I'm not big fans of on this slate. I think it all depends on if Lonzo plays. If Lonzo plays, I don't have much interest in anyone on the team. Maybe Lonzo could be viable in tournaments because he's so cheap. He's down to 5,300. But if he's out, I really like Eric Bledsoe. I really like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Both those guys will be really good options from New Orleans if Lonzo is out. But I think that does it for the Pelicans. We can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Cavs and the Knicks. We will start off with the Cavs. Another team that's kind of dealing with some injuries, not really any major ones, but Larry Nance is still questionable. If he's out, that doesn't impact too much on Cleveland. Overall, I guess Drummond maybe sees a few more minutes, but Drummond still has only been playing like 26, 28 minutes. He's not getting the insane amount of minutes that he was getting before the trade that they got, with Jared Allen. Now that Jared Allen's on the roster, Allen is definitely taking minutes away from Drummond. It's tough to pay $8,600 for Drummond when he's only going to get, 28 to 30 minutes. I know he's been good lately, and I know he's had some really good games lately, but I just can't pay this price tag for Drummond when he's not getting 35, 36 minutes. So don't really like him on this slate. Colin Sexton's fine in tournaments, but not someone that really stands out as a core option. I think Darius Garland, though, he looks probably like the most appealing option from the Cavs. He's only 5K on Draftkings. He moved back into the starting lineup last game, and he was not on a minutes restriction. He played 31 minutes, was pretty productive with 26 DK points. Garland has been productive this year when he does get minutes. At the beginning of the year, he was on a really good stretch. He was playing so well at the beginning of the year. Then he got hurt. Things have kind of, went a little bit downhill, but it was good to see him back in the starting lineup. It was good to see no minutes restriction. At 5K on DraftKings, I think Darius Garland actually looks like a really good, decent value at 5K. Someone I do like is sort of an early look value. Maybe some better plays will open up as the day goes on. But for now, Garland, Zeller, if you're talking about guys that are 5K and below, I think those are two standout options for me on DK. But really, that does it for Cleveland. Not much to like from the Cleveland side. Kind of the same for the Knicks as well. Overall, this game isn't that appealing. I think Julius Randle, he is always someone you can pay up for in tournaments. He definitely has upside on a nightly basis. I do like him here. He's for sure the guy I like the most on the Knicks. RJ Barrett, been playing better lately. Going to get a good amount of minutes. He's fine at 6,300, but not a core play for me. Same with Mitchell Robinson, Payton. None of these guys stand out as core options. Alec Burks should start, probably play close to 30 minutes. He's fine at 5,100. But really on the Knicks today, I think Julius Randle's my favorite option by far, and not much stands out. Not much else stands out from New York. So moving on to the next one, the Kings and the Raptors. On the Kings side, no injuries here really to monitor, so the team's pretty much fully healthy at this point. In a matchup against the Raptors, I don't think any of these guys stand out as top plays. Sure, De'Aaron Fox could pop off any night. Sure, Rashawn Holmes could have a big double-double any night. But I don't expect to have much exposure to either one of these teams. It is a good matchup for the Raptors, and we're going to talk about them in a second. But at their price points, Not really anyone stands out from Toronto, but yeah, on the Kings side, nobody really stands out here. Like Bagley, he's just hard to trust. Like, he's just not getting the minutes. He should be productive when he's on the floor, but they're just not playing him a ton of minutes. I really don't like anything from Sacramento. Even De'Aaron Fox in tournaments you could maybe consider, but I think there's other guys I'd rather get to. Definitely would rather play Trae Young, would rather play Russell Westbrook. I'm just not a big fan of Fox. Really not a fan of this Kings team as a whole. So moving on to the Raptors side, it is a very good matchup for the Raptors here. The Kings have been terrible defensively this year. They've been playing at a really fast pace as well. Right now, the big three, like Van Vliet, Siakam, Lowry, all three of those guys are healthy. OG Anunoby, though, he is questionable, so this will be something to monitor. If he's out again, I think we will see Norman Powell start once again. Powell started last game, played a ton of minutes. He was productive once again. I mean, he's been really good in the starting lineup. I didn't expect him to be nearly this good whenever the team was fully healthy, but he's been playing at a really high level. His price is up to $6,200 though on DK, so he's not like a top option for me. I think he's still pretty affordable on Yahoo, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Powell's $19 on Yahoo, so if he does start again in place of OG, he could be someone worth considering on Yahoo. But like Van Vliet, Siakam, Lowry, like all these guys, all these guys have upside, but it's just so hard to predict when they're going to go off on a nightly basis. Like when the Raptors have been fully healthy this year, I just really haven't played these three guys. I guess if I had to choose one, I think Lowry would probably be my favorite just because he's the cheapest of the three. His prices come way down to $7,100. We know Lowry can, put up 45, 50 DK points any night. If there was ever a spot for him to do it, it would be against this Kings team. So if I have to choose someone from Toronto out of the big three, I think it would be Lowry given that he's the cheapest. Norman Powell I do have some interest in if OG's out again. Aaron Baines, his minutes have actually been way up, which is kind of weird. Like he got 23 minutes last game. I wouldn't say they've been way up, but they've definitely been more consistent. Like we've seen them give Baines 22, 24 minutes. I mean, if he gets 24, 25 minutes here against this Kings team, like he could definitely smash at 3,400. I just don't really know if he does. Tough to, roster him on a big slate like this, but in tournaments, he's probably going to be unowned. Could be someone worth considering, but I think that really does it for Toronto. Like not much stands out from Toronto. Lowry, I think, is my favorite of the big three, and Powell, if he starts again, could be viable. More so on Yahoo, where he's more affordable. But I think we can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Sixers and the Timberwolves. So big injury to watch here. Right now, Joel Embiid is questionable for the Sixers. If he plays, I have a good amount of interest in him at 9,400. Like this is a great spot for him against Minnesota. Minnesota's still without Karl-Anthony Towns, so it's going to be some combination of Ed Davis and Naz Reid, attempting to slow down Embiid, and neither one of those guys stand a chance. Embiid is definitely up there with Westbrook, with Trae Young, with Giannis as like my favorite pay-up options right now. I do like Embiid a lot if he plays. If he does play, he's really the only guy that stands out from Philly. Like Ben Simmons, he's coming off a big game, but I don't really want to chase that, even in a good matchup. Embiid's the guy I like most if he's healthy. Now, if he's out, then yeah, that definitely changes things. That makes Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris both look like really good options. Dwight Howard would be a really good value center at 4,200 if Embiid's out. So this is just kind of a wait and see for now. If Embiid plays, I like him, and that's really it. If he's out, Simmons, Harris, Howard all become very, very solid plays. We just got to wait and see on that Embiid news because that is, pretty big news that we're kind of waiting on for this slate. But we'll go ahead and move on to the other side with Minnesota. Another team that's dealing with some question marks. D'Angelo Russell, he's missed their last two games. He is questionable once again for this game. In a matchup against Philly, he's not someone that really stands out as a top option. Really on the Timberwolves, like I don't think anyone stands out at their price tags. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt, he's a productive player when he gets minutes, but his minutes have just been all over the place. Some nights he'll get 21, 22. Some nights he'll get 26, 27. I worry about this matchup against Philly. Like, he could definitely get into some foul trouble, especially if he has to defend Embiid at some points, if Embiid plays. I think when you look at the pricing, like, Vanderbilt would probably be my favorite option. Naz Reid, I've been playing a lot on Yahoo lately. His price is starting to come up, though, and it's a scary matchup against Embiid because if Embiid plays, I mean, Naz Reid is very likely to get into foul trouble guarding Embiid. Naz Reid has a big problem with fouls. He's a very productive player when he gets minutes, but I do worry about the foul trouble here. I worry about the matchup with Embiid. I think he's still viable just because he has so much upside when he does get minutes. So I don't mind him on Yahoo, Naz Reid that is. On Draftkings, I think Vanderbilt's fine at 5,100, but nobody really stands out for Minnesota, at least not as like top options for me. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. We got 4 more left. We got Brooklyn, OKC. So Brooklyn, again, like this team, when they're fully healthy, like I just don't really play any of these guys. I know James Harden had a really good game last time against the Hawks. He had 72 DK points in 46 minutes in that overtime game. Finally looked really good. Kevin Durant, not as productive, 46 DK points in 42 minutes. And then Kyrie Irving didn't have that great of a game either, 45 DK points in 42 minutes. On this slate, none of these Brooklyn guys stand out as top plays. And really just on this team as a whole, like nobody stands out as a top option. DeAndre Jordan has upside if they give him minutes, but his minutes have just been all over the place. You never know how many minutes he's going to play. If you told me DeAndre Jordan was going to play 30 minutes, I'd have a lot of interest in him, but that's probably not going to happen. So, yeah, like when Brooklyn's fully healthy, I'm just not really going to look to target this team much until the pricing gets, like if Kyrie Irving was 8K today, I'd have a lot more interest. If KD was like 9K, I'd have a lot more interest. Just don't think I can pay these prices for them when they're all healthy. So, moving on to OKC. OKC, another team I just don't have a ton of interest in today. SGA, like at 8,300 in a pace-up spot against Brooklyn, he could pop off for a decent game here. I think these teams have played this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and he did have a big game against Brooklyn, 55 DK points in 36 minutes. I mean, SGA always has upside, but still, I think there's other guys I'd rather pay up for on this slate. Al Horford, it's a good matchup, but you never know what you're going to get from Al Horford. I mean, he did have a big game last time out, but Al Horford is just not a guy that I really want to play. His upside is just so low. I know he had a good game against Brooklyn earlier this year, but I feel like there's way better plays on a 10-game slate than going to Al Horford. Honestly, my favorite play from Brooklyn or from OKC would probably be Darius Bazley at 5K. That's a pretty nice price for Bazley. If he's going to get 30, 32 minutes, he could definitely pay off that price point. So I do have interest in him. I mean, Lou Dort, like, they're going to need his defense here against Harden and Kyrie and KD, but Lou Dort just doesn't have any upside, so I don't really want to target him. Theo Maledon, he's going to continue to start in place of George Hill. He actually got 30 minutes last game starting for George Hill. I mean, if he's going to start again and play 30 minutes at 3,400, he's a fine punt option. I don't think he gives you a ton of upside, but right now there's not a ton of standout value. I think that could definitely change as the day goes on. Maledon as a punt option does make some sense at 3,400 since George Hill is out again, but that really does it for OKC. Not that appealing of a game overall between Brooklyn and OKC. So moving on to the next one, the Clippers and Orlando. So the Clippers, right now I believe Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are still going to be out. I think they're going to be out for at least like another game or two. We'll have to wait and see here. I'm assuming they're going to be out again. This is a back-to-back for the Clippers. They played on Thursday. They're playing again here on Friday. Right now, I'm assuming that Kawhi and PG are going to remain out. So, Reggie Jackson, he's been playing really well with those guys out. He's been getting big minutes. Last two games, he's played 39 and 37 minutes, 46, 37 DK points. I mean, he's still viable. I don't love his price tag at $6,700, but he's definitely someone you can look to. But on Yahoo, I think that's where these Clippers guys, once again, like these Clippers guys are just too cheap on Yahoo. Reggie Jackson, only $17. Assuming Kawhi and PG are out again, really, really like Reggie Jackson. I think he definitely stands out at $17, and I just think he's way too cheap over there. Same with Luke Kennard. At $6,200 on DraftKings, I probably won't be playing Luke Kennard at that price. But on Yahoo, he's minimum salary. Still looks like a pretty good value on Yahoo at $10. I know he had a bad game on Thursday night, played 27 minutes, only had 17 fantasy points, but I'm fine going back to him. Should get 28 to 30 minutes in the starting lineup, is going to get more usage, more opportunity with no Kawhi, with no PG. He's minimum salary, definitely a fine value on Yahoo at $10. I do like him quite a bit over there. But on DraftKings, I mean, with the pricing, nobody stands out as top plays from the Clippers, even if Kawhi and PG are out again. Terrence Mann, I played him on Thursday and it didn't really go well. He played 27 minutes. He started again. He only had 20 DK points. Not a top option on this slate. Lou Williams actually played pretty well. He had 33 DK points in 28 minutes. This is a back-to-back, so maybe Lou Will could rest here. Maybe he gets limited. This will be something to monitor, but Lou Will, I mean, we saw it. Like he still has some upside in him. If he's going to come off the bench and play 26, 28 minutes again, at 5,700, he's viable for sure. I do worry about the back-to-back for an older guy like Lou Will, but could be someone worth considering if Kawhi and Paul George remain out. Same with Marcus Morris. He played 26 minutes. He was somewhat productive, 26 DK points. A fine option, but really, on the Clippers, a lot of these guys are much better plays on Yahoo. It's tougher to get to them on DraftKings given the pricing. Now on Orlando, I really don't like anything on Orlando today. It's not that good of a matchup. Vooch always has upside, but he doesn't feel like someone I want to go out of my way to play today. Aaron Gordon was terrible last game. I would expect him to play much better today, but I don't know if Aaron Gordon's someone I really want to go out of my way to play. His price tag did come down, though, which I think does make him appealing. I mean, overall, Orlando's just not an appealing team on this slate. Just not a team I really want to have much exposure to. Maybe some Aaron Gordon because the price came down, but that really does it from the Magic. Moving on to Denver and San Antonio. Denver, for me, it's Jokic and it's Jamal Murray. Like, I just don't really play any of these other guys when the team is fully healthy. I mean, Michael Porter Jr., like at 6,600, I just don't feel like I have to pay 6,600 for Michael Porter Jr. on a 10-game slate. I think there's just so many other better plays. Even Jamal Murray, like, he hasn't been playing that well lately. It is a good matchup, though, against San Antonio. Really, it's just Jokic, honestly. I think Jokic is the guy I like most from Denver. On this slate, though, there's still other studs I'd rather play. Definitely would rather save salary and play Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Embiid. Giannis I like as well. I guess really on Denver, there's not much that stands out as top plays. Jokic, I think you can definitely mix in tournaments, but he's still not like a core option for me on this slate. That kind of does it for Denver. Like, not a team that I have much appeal in right now. Now on San Antonio, I do want to talk about some guys on San Antonio, just given the pricing. For some reason, DeMar DeRozan and Dejounte Murray both just feel too cheap on DraftKings. DeRozan only 6,800. Had 37 DK points last game against Boston, which was a mediocre game from him, and he still was pretty solid at his price point. The price tag came down $300. At 6,800, I mean, DeRozan, I don't love this matchup against Denver, but he's just too cheap on DraftKings. If this game's close, he's going to play 35, 36 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute player. He's very likely to give you 40-plus DK points if it's a close game. I like him a lot given the price tag. And Dejounte Murray, once again, I think is just way too cheap on DraftKings. His price, he was too cheap on Wednesday against Boston. I know he didn't have a great game, but now his price is down to 6,100. I really like Dejounte Murray once again on this slate. I just think the price tag is just too low, man. Like, this is someone that's going to average a fantasy point per minute. He's going to play 35, 36 minutes if it's a close game. I like him a lot on DK. He stands out for sure as one of the more underpriced players overall on this slate. And, like, even LaMarcus Aldridge could be viable. He's down to 5,500. Obviously, Aldridge doesn't have a ton of upside at this point in his career, but the price tag is so low. Like, Aldridge, DeRozan, Murray, they all look like really solid options today, just given they're all so cheap on DraftKings. Murray, though, I think is my favorite of the three. But outside of those three guys, not much else stands out from San Antonio. I really don't like anyone else from the Spurs. So we can go ahead and move on to the late night hammer, the Jazz and the Mavericks. This game, we saw this game played on Wednesday. They're playing again on Friday. On the Dallas side, outside of Luka, I have really no interest in anyone on Dallas. Like, it's just not a great matchup. It's a pace-down spot. Like, this is just going to be a slow-paced game. Luka's always in playing tournaments, but in this matchup, he doesn't feel like someone I really want to go out of my way to play. Dallas, honestly, is probably just going to be a fade for me. Like, I don't really like anyone on the Mavs. I mean, Josh Richardson, he's really cheap, but I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. It's his second game back. He only played 24 last game. He wasn't productive at all. Yeah, I just don't really like anyone on Dallas today. Not on a big slate like this. I just think there's so many other better options than to target, Mavs guys against the Jazz. But now on the Jazz side, this is an appealing team due to the fact that Donovan Mitchell is questionable again. Mitchell sat out their last game in the same matchup, and we saw big games from Jordan Clarkson. Rudy Gobert went off. Joe Ingles had a big game. Even Mike Conley, I know he wasn't great last game, but he still got, he gets increased usage with those guys off the floor. Right now, so if Mitchell plays, I really have no interest in anyone on Dallas or on Utah, maybe outside of Rudy Gobert, just because Gobert's always a guy that can give you 40, 45 DK points. But yeah, this is just a wait and see. If Mitchell plays, I don't have really a ton of interest in anyone. If Mitchell's out again, though, Gobert, Clarkson, Conley, Ingles all become really, really good options. Ingles I'd like a lot as a value. He's cheap. He started last game, played 30 minutes, had 41 DK points. I'd assume if Mitchell's out again, he starts, probably plays 30, 32 minutes at 4,700, would definitely be in play as a value option. So hard to really break down Utah right now, not knowing the status of Donovan Mitchell. If he's out, I like those guys again. If he plays, not too much interest in anyone from Utah. So that does it for Utah, and that does it for all 10 games, guys. 10 games, guys. We broke down this 10-game slate team by team. I hope the breakdown helped. As always, I hope the videos do help. If you enjoy, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. You will also get notified every time I do go live. And like I said earlier, I will be live streaming this afternoon for tonight's slate. I'll be able to answer all your questions. So if you do have any questions, lineup specific questions for tonight, any 1v1, 2v2s, I can answer all those in the live stream. So be sure to tune into the live stream if you're able to around 3:30 Eastern time on Friday afternoon. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Peace.